And we have a special recognition of Joan's commitment to Elkton and the Douglas County art community. And after that, we hope to have some time for some questions. So during the presentation, we'll be sharing some of her art on screen, but I really encourage those of you who can to come see the show in person. It is beautiful. It's behind me. The gallery is open Tuesday through Thursday from 10 until 2, or by request, anytime ECEC is open, which is now Tuesday through Saturday from 10 until 4. The title of this talk is Joan Aresnault, A Painting Journey. And Morgan, if you want to put up the first painting. Joan, I'm going to do a short bio here. So Joan has said that art and nature study have been the defining interests in her life, aside from family and home. She started college at Berkeley as an art major and then finished at UCLA as a zoology major after marrying her husband, Bill. Her journey as an artist started in earnest in 1997. Joan studied for years at UCC with Marie Rasmussen and others, and also took classes in Yosemite. So if you've ever seen Joan's date book, then you know you're talking with an artist. Every page is color-coded. It's as if color is the lens that she looks through to understand and organize her life. Joan, I am so glad that you're with us today. So Joan and I talked earlier about some of the themes she wanted to touch on. So I'm going to ask questions to kind of prompt those themes. But Joan, you should talk about anything you want. Okay. Morgan, why don't you bring it on back to speaker view so folks can focus on Joan as she talks. So Joan, why don't we start with the early days? I want to encourage you to talk about where your love of color comes from and how you got started as a painter, maybe a little bit about who your early teachers were. So take us there.
Well, in 1997, there were some changes in my life. I was tired of painting my house. I could no longer run in races. I was traveling to California every other month to see my mother in a nursing home. And I thought, why not try some painting classes in Yosemite? I signed up for one and found I know absolutely nothing about painting and drawing. I started classes at Umpqua Community College. And I think I must have gone there off and on for 4 or 5 years. I've studied with Marie Rasmussen, who still is a friend, a good friend and mentor. I met people in the art community from Roseburg, at the Umpqua Valley Art Center. I became acquainted with people in class, people like Alita and Kyle McGee, who helped us get the gallery started, actually. And along with that, at the same time, my life in painting more or less paralleled the life and development of ECEC. As Carol was starting out with a bang, I met Jane in 2001 at book club. And we kind of hit it off. And she can tell you about that. Started out with forming a gallery, which it was a garage and then a preschool. Now is back to being a preschool. And then eventually the library was built and our gallery was there. My painting in Yosemite was a joy. I still have good friends, 2 teachers there, Charles Waldman of Sonora and Myra Donahue. And I took joy in staying in Yosemite, staying in the tent cabins, painting out of doors. It was just a wonderful life. I began to get the idea of plein air painting, which is not easy, and perhaps 1 out of 6 works might be usable or bearable. And my love of color, I think, love color. Oh, hi, Loretta. I think I've always loved color. I like nature, and I do see color everywhere. I'm taking joy in spring now that it's unfolding outside. I'm not one to paint on a gloomy day, and I'm not one to paint gloomy subjects. I like to celebrate the joy in life that's all around us.
You want more? Do you want to ask another question now?
Are there any questions?
Yes, so Joan, we have some of your early pieces. So
Yes.
Morgan, how about if you put a picture up? And then, yeah, Joan, do you want to talk about, we've got three photos. So if you want to talk about the pictures, and then Joan can put, then Morgan can put another one up.
I want you to talk about the three photos.
Yes, every painting has a story. This one, very early at Umpqua Community College, stemmed from a couple of hikes into Dog Creek Caves right up the North Umpqua. I haven't yet determined whether this spot burnt in the fire or not. And I use sand and material, and frankly, I can't remember what I used, but I found it when I was sticking out paintings for this show, and I now rather enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very early from the days of school.
Here comes another one.
This one was done on site, plein air, not too many years ago, maybe 8.
Where was it?
Pastel on sanded paper. Sanded pastel paper is like sandpaper, 400 grain sandpaper. Most of it done in just one city. Jane and I went on a group to this park up the North Umpqua. I believe it's out of the fire area too. I think Whistler's been.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay, Janice says.
Yeah.
So this spot is still in existence up past Clyde. And this is Jill's right across the street. Oops. Jill's Vineyard, I think not very long after they planted it. It's another favorite spot that Jane and I like to paint. Again, pastel is quick. It goes down fast. You can somehow it lends itself to working outside.
Nice, nice. So Joan, you've already mentioned a couple of favorite places to paint. You talk a little bit more about some of the spots that you especially enjoyed, and how do you decide where you want to go?
Well, if I'm with the class decides. if it's Jane and I, for a long time we painted with a group called Papu, and she can tell you about that, where a group would decide where to paint. If she and I go out around Elkton, we take a look at the day, we take a look at the weather, take a look at where there might be shade, because on the middle of summer, that's really important, because by the middle of the day, you're ready to die. And then somehow choosing a place to paint, and once you're there, choosing a view you want to use may not be easy. It's critical. And moving to 6 feet to one side or another can make a good composition or make one that's a failure. It's fairly critical. And sometimes it's determined by how close you can park your car next to the road.
Family goes camping.
Or if you're camping, if there's a tree nearby, you can huddle under. There were lots of times you hit your head on a branch or try to avoid a mud puddle. But the choice of scene is somewhat crucial. Sometimes a person totally fails at the choice.
That's great.
Uh-oh.
I'm back.
Here you are.
One place that I know you loved to paint was Paradise Creek.
Paradise.
We've got one of your pictures from there, and I wonder.
This is Jill's Vineyard.
Yes.
Oh,
This is
This is a place that, talk about how you choose angle and light when it's a site that you are around all the time.
yeah.
This is a scene just not too far up the road up our house. A scene where in May, there's a wonderful display of Iris tenax, a native iris. This is a view that is no longer there. The entire view is taken up with fir trees. And the Douglas fir are like a weed. They're wonderful from a
Commercial.
point of view of a farm, a tree former, but they do take over the meadows. So this is an example of a place on the ranch. I'm so glad I painted because the scene is no longer there. It's completely changed. So it's,
How about the time of day?
this would have been, I think, the middle of the day. It would have been a cloudy day. And the painting itself is somewhat darker than this, but it gives you the idea of the kinds of things. I'm glad I painted because the scenes are gone.
Morgan, let's bring up the next painting.
Oh, the Deschutes River, our favorite camping place. We have a big family camp here. Corey and Julie know my nieces know this place. This is a scene. There's an old railroad bed that goes along the Deschutes River. This is out of Madras, Oregon. And in this picture, I wanted to emphasize the garden along the banks of the river. It's a high desert scene, but along the river, there's verdant life, all kinds of living things and animals. I suppose I should have included people fishing because that's what they do here. The campground is in the distance there at that bend in the river. And we camp there every June or Memorial Day. This is Yosemite, Tuolumne Meadows, a place I paint with my friend and mentor, Charles Waldman, not far from the big campground. Tuolumne Meadows is an accessible high country meadow in Yosemite National Park. It's at 8,600 feet. And this would have been something done in maybe an hour or so, standing out in the meadow, and Charles, as the teacher, would give a demonstration painting, and then we would all follow. He could do something in 1 hour that was priceless, and the rest of us sort of struggled along. It's one of my favorite places in the world, right here.
Joan, I know you have a passion for botany. How does your interest and your eye for plants influence your eye as an artist?
I guess the botany came first. I remember going to Yosemite to take botany classes before I ever took a painting class. I think my love of color, a love of plants. I have painted a few people, but not a lot. And I really haven't done that many botanical studies, although I have studied a botanical drawing. I think my love of color, I just don't remember ever not loving color. And then, of course, botany and plants. There are always surprise bits of color everywhere you look. And that's one of the great joys. Janice and I have great fun collecting for the Glide Wildflower Show, which is now online like everything else.
It's not the same, is it?
It isn't the same.
Well, Joan, one of my earliest impressions of you when you and I met was around your advocacy for art and bringing art to Elkton and connecting ECEC with organizations like the Umpqua Valley Arts Association. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that was important to you? I
think that art has always been such a joy to me. I think it was important that I try to introduce people to that same kind of joy. Because I met so many people in Roseburg taking classes at Umpqua Community College and through Umpqua Valley Arts. I really did get to know a lot of Douglas County artists. There are great artists too, right in Elkton, I learned. But I thought that we could provide a showcase for all kinds of people doing all kinds of art and at all stages of expertise. I thought that was important because one of the hardest things to do when you're learning to paint is at what point do you actually show your work to somebody else? You can never be shy, and just as with learning anything else, you can never be embarrassed by early efforts. And some of them are truly embarrassing from my own point of view. But I think it helps to reach out to people. You say, yes, show your art. It's wonderful. And it's just very gratifying to help artists and to help people see art.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to open this up in just a minute for other people's questions. But before we do that, I mentioned at the beginning that we also had a special recognition for Joan and her decades of leadership in the community and as an artist. Joan has had a huge impact on our community. She served on the board of ECEC for many years, and as we grew, she always made sure that art was woven into our programming, our events, and our site. Joan selected many of the plants in the Native Plant Park, curated countless art shows in our gallery, and helped launch our annual Blooms and Butterflies event. She's been an enthusiastic supporter of the Glide Wildflower Show, the Umpqua Valley Arts Association, and many other groups. Many of you probably know that with her husband, Bill, they were leaders in Oregon Small Woodlands Association. And in 2013, they were recognized nationally as the Western Region's Outstanding Tree Farmers of the Year for their stewardship of the land at Paradise Creek. I think as many on this call can confirm, she is a loyal friend, a gracious organizer, and a dedicated community leader.
Oh my goodness.
So for all of these reasons and more, I'm so pleased to announce that the ECEC Gallery is being renamed in her honor. So future art shows will be in the Joan Aresnault Gallery inside the Ellie Smart Community Library here at ECEC. Joan, thank you for your decades of leadership. And everybody can unmute and say congratulations.
Yay!
Feel free to unmute.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That's terrific.
Congratulations.
Wonderful.
Well done, Joan.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Happy birthday Thursday, April 1st.
I have,
Joan, I know we've got a couple of folks who, oh, go ahead, Sue.
I was just going to say, I have so many wonderful memories of my time at ECEC, interconnected with Joan, my time with the timber stuff with Joan and Bill. If it hadn't been for Joan, we wouldn't have had paint in the park. We wouldn't have had our great tile and pottery ceramics experiment. We've had wonderful times that she's contributed, both headed and contributed to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Jane, I think you were also you also have something to say.
Yeah. Do you want me to start now?
Yes, please, you're on.
Okay. I wrote this down because I have a terrible memory. So if it sounds a bit like I'm reciting it, well, I am. Okay. I've known Joan for 20 years, and for most of that time, we've painted outdoors together. So I'm delighted that she's being honored here today. We first met at book club in 2001, and I think we were both founder members of the club which met at the meeting house, the mobile home, which is now a private residence. Joan was a member of the ECEC board and also an artist who is ready to have her first show. I was glad about this as I had been arranging art shows at the meeting house and was in need of artists willing to show their work. Later, I confessed to Joan that I did not relish being in charge of anything, and she took over as art coordinator with me as her other committee member. This worked very well. A committee of two can get things done in a hurry, and we often did. Joan had plenty of contacts in the local art world. Many of them she knew through UVAA, and some of them were persuaded to show their work at ECEC. The preschool building was an exhibition space for a while, and then when the new community building and library was built, the art shows moved to a much more suitable space, the one we use now. Joan footed the bill for gallery lighting and the hanging system for the gallery, and we were in business. Many of the art classes Joan has taken have been plein air painting, so it was natural that we would go out painting together in places around Elton, and we both joined the plein air painters of the Umpqua group based in Roseburg. We had many outings together, struggling with our painting gear, the weather, the light, which was always coming from the wrong direction, insects, and comments from passers-by. Art critics are surprisingly numerous, even in the great outdoors. After a strenuous morning's painting, we'd repair to Tomaselli's or to one of our houses for lunch. And I have to say, I was always surprised by the amount of food Joan could put away. She eats like a hummingbird, twice her own weight in food per day. So that's all I have to say.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm so hungry.
You are.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
So as we transition here into the Q&A portion, I think Marcia Mello was all ready to go with the first question. So Marcia, I invite you to talk or type in using the chat feature. And Joan and Janice, you let us know if the sound is working for you, okay? And if you need questions to be typed.
So I need to unmute and then, oh, here it
You're
is.
there.
Aha. So my question is,
This is great modeling.
okay, I won't type the first one, but Joan is such an accomplished plein air painter. I'm wondering, what are the differences that you see in morning and afternoon light? And which, if either of those lights, do you prefer to paint in?
Oh,
Yes.
I think either one, because I like the slanted light and a lower light level of either. I'm perhaps more of a morning person. And often when I've painted, for instance, in Roseburg at the Pawn Art event every year, we get out early, 8 o'clock in the morning. But I think I like the cooler color of morning, but if I have chance to paint in the evening, that's wonderful too.
Makes sense.
Okay, so while other folks are thinking of questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to share two things. We had a question earlier of how long the show was going to stay in the gallery. And so at this point, it should be up through late spring and possibly early summer. Does that sound right to you, Marcia?
Yes.
I know you're working on the next show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. No hard and fast date this time.
Okay, great. So we've got another picture that we'll put up. And then Janice, after Joan's talked about that, do you have your chat feature open?
I'm seeing questions.
Okay, so let's let Joan talk about this next painting, and then if you could cue her with those questions, that would be great.
Do I put the cursor on there?
Oh, this painting. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Does someone want me to talk about this?
Yes, please.
Oh, this is the North Umpqua. I'm trying to think. I've painted from this spot 3 times on the road on the big Umpqua Valley Plein-Air event. Each time in the morning, probably starting at 8 in the morning. And this painting, I think, was done in 2018. It belongs to my daughter Janice, and it is this spot is totally gone in a fire.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I've had the chance over the years to paint on parts of the North Umpqua, because they won't be there again in my lifetime, and probably a couple of lifetimes. So I'm proud of this painting. I think I did show it at the Umpqua Valley Art Center, but it's one of my favorites.
Oh,
And this is Yosemite near Camp Curry. I did a series of paintings there. I took pastel paper to the site and did watercolor rough drafts on the paper, brought the paintings home and finished them in pastel. This is one of a series of about 4, I think, that I did this way. And they're some of my favorites. Camp Curry is right off the road to the left. And this is I forget the name of the bridge.
Stoneman?
Stoneman Bridge,
Yeah, isn't
it
it
might
right?
be. Yeah, that's Whistler's Bend. Whistler's Bend is the park before you get to Glide.
Yeah.
So it was saved from the fires.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's a kind of it's not a very promising looking place when you drive into
not.
it, but it turned out to be a very rich place to paint. I think Jane was probably there that day too. I don't remember, but it was one of the places we went with the Papu group from Roseburg. And again, I say it's done very fast and I think quite successful.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I was there. I think I did a really lousy painting that day.
okay. So now I'm looking at some of the questions.
Oh,
Let's see.
what about the one down there? Brand of paint.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Jason wanted to know what your favorite brand of paint was.
Well, in oil painting, I had to switch from using conventional oils to water cleanable or soluble oils. And basically I've used whatever was handy. Winsor Newton, not the best, but it's usable and it cleans up and you can use it
And it doesn't give
in
you a
your
headache,
studio
right?
without a big blower.
Yeah. Yeah.
For pastels, I like good qualities, the best you can buy, soft pastels. There's no point in saving money on those. They're pure pigment, they aren't chalk. And to get the color you need. Pastels and oils work about the same way. You can work from dark to light. That is, you can add lights after you've blocked in your painting. The opposite of from watercolor, where you have to work the other way around. I find that quite difficult. And there's a question about painting outside.
If you're not painting outside,
I
do you use a reference photo?
Yeah,
or
for
memory?
many years, I use my camera extensively. I use it when I set up to do a painting. I use the camera to frame, to compose, along with sketches. I use it as a memory guide even a plot artist, I keep photographic records of all of them. But I do paint from film, from pictures in the winter, especially when the weather is bad, and for doing very large paintings, which I don't do much anymore, but the bigger paintings in the show, I probably did in my studio. I'm not very good about painting from memory. I remember color. I don't remember shapes very well, but I don't remember subject matter. I think I do best when I can actually see something.
That's great.
Here's Morgan. As an ecologist, I can see the structure of the different canopy cover of each ecosystem you painted. As a forester, did you intentionally do this in your art? Or what is purely through our osmosis of working in nature? The osmosis has the vote. I paint what I see. I do. I think all of us who paint move trees around, rocks around. You open up spaces, you balance, you look for a focal point. You try to remember to include some darks, include some lights and everything. Lots of times you don't remember, but I pretty much paint what I see, and I'm not above adding trees or adding horsepower if I don't think there's quite enough, or adding color where a little color might help.
Joan, there was a question earlier that is, what is your favorite subject matter?
When I put together this show, I just went through my studio and pulled out everything I could find that was usable. I don't know whether it clearly represents my favorite subject matter, but I do still love the Sierras and the Deschutes River. I love parts of my farm. Aspen in Central Oregon, one of my great favorites. Some of those paintings are Janice's home in Bend. I think that I like nature in general. I love trees, I love water, and I love the North Umpqua River.
I like this question.
What?
Do you usually finish a painting in one day?
The little tiny paintings done plein air, yes. Some of them, when I was working with the plein air show in Roseburg, you had to finish a painting in one day, you had to turn it in. And it was actually stamped on the back. It was very challenging. I can't say.
Those are the ones I like the best.
And Janice likes those paintings. She's come and rescued some from my junk pile and done amazing things with framing them. And I think most of the time things get touched up a bit at home, but I'd say that some of them very, very little. Some of them I might have to add a bit of dark here, a bit of that balance. Something when you study it a little bit might be just a little off, and a brush stroke or two might help. I don't know whether that answers the questions. But oh, here's a question about ECEC. Yes, I've tried. I find it very difficult to paint in the flower gardens. Jane is wonderful. I find it mind-boggling. The color,
Too much going on.
there is almost too much to see. Your senses almost explode with color, shapes. And before you know it, you have too much going on your paper. I've been known to go home and put the whole thing under the water faucet. Wash it.
So for anyone who doesn't have their chat screen up, the question there was, are there any sites at ECEC that have been subjects of your work?
I should have repeated the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like some of those paintings didn't last long if they went home under the water faucet.
So cute. Oh, I think we got them all.
Have you ever painted the river at ECEs? Yes, one of my favorite subjects. I
Yeah.
think that painting is at home. And there again, it's the tree canopy. And there again,
Mm.
in painting the trees, I take a lot of, I have used lots of freedom in trying to get variety in the canopy, the shapes, the colors, the sizes. I take an artist view of it. It isn't strictly a botanical view.
Oh, look.
Just Julie. Oh, Julie.
She says, hi, Auntie Joan. Hillary Trigg and Tell just arriving in California for Easter. So privileged to own a couple of your pieces. Can't wait to see you at the shoots. That's her niece.
This is my niece in Mariposa, California, and my visits to we're going to go see them in May, I hope. Julie owns a lot of my work from Yosemite. Some of it very early, and some of it I look at and kind of cringe, but I'm proud that she's kept them.
Joan, you know so many people from all over the place. How far do you think your art has traveled?
Oh, ooh, that's a new
Oh,
question.
well, I know, if any of you remember Dick and Jerry Nickel, they bought a lot of my work, and then Dick and Jerry moved to Memphis, and then we've lost Jerry. But I've assumed that he kept the art.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know about whether my son in Virginia has anything. He gets out here enough to see enough of it. But other than that, I'm not quite sure. I've given away work. I've donated work for charity. I've sold a lot of work. People have been very generous. I've been very flattered, very, very often, that people have liked my work. My daughter says she goes to houses occasionally and sees something that I've given away or given to charity or given to an auction, or sold at Umpqua Valley Arts. Look at that.
Oh, that has nothing to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting.
I think we got them all.
Yeah. So is there anyone on the Zoom that would like to ask a question, even if you don't want to put it in the chat? Anne, or I can see you on my screen. That's why I'm calling you out.
I'm just enjoying listening.
How about other folks?
I have another question.
Yes.
I always look forward to the annual Christmas card because it's taken from a painting of the ranch usually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a particular favorite one, and how long does it take you to get the cards ready?
Oh, our Christmas cards.
Yeah.
I should have put some of those in the show. They're painted pretty quickly. Most of them done in acrylic because it dries. Sometimes I've done them on an annual trip to Hawaii in November, and I paint them from a photograph. The one I did last Christmas was right from camp at Horseshoe Bend Camp on the North Umpqua River, milepost 47, which is still there, and I will go there again in August. I don't know what I'll do this year, but I will paint something. And they go pretty fast. And by now, at my age, if you don't send someone a Christmas card, they think you're dead, and I'm not dead. I will probably go right on with my Christmas card custom.
You better.
Julie, what are you working on now?
Oh,
Your
okay.
birds.
I could talk about my new life in Riverview Terrace. I live in an apartment in a huge apartment complex. I'm working in acrylics. I don't stand at my easel anymore. I have a studio that's about 4 feet by 8 feet. That. I'm doing smaller paintings and saving the pastels for camp trips. And right now I'm working on a series of birds in a 12 by 12 frame. Birds are a lifelong love of mine. And I'm trying to make them somewhat symbolic, not out of a bird book. And I'm also doing greeting cards. Eventually, most of you will get one, I guess, with birds as themes. And I'm getting better at it. And I'm not crazy about acrylics, but they do the job. They're clean. They're easy to, they dry fast, and they don't take up much space in my environment. So I painted the potholes. The potholes are a holy feature on a creek that runs through our ranch. Yes, I have.
Those are really nice ones.
I'm trying to think. I think that Janice and Tom have a series,
There's two of them
Eh,
at the lodge. Yeah.
if they're home in Bend, of the potholes in the snow.
Mhm.
And they're a wonderful geological challenge. If you follow the geology, you come up with a understandable painting.
Joan, can you say more about that? You said if you follow the geology, you come up with an understandable painting.
Yes.
Say more.
If you carefully paint what you see in terms of the layers of rocks, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense when you first look at it, but that's been my formula for painting. Rocks aren't easy. In the case of the potholes, however, they are, because they're like places where they look like Indian grinding stones, except they're not.
The river's ground.
The river rocks get caught in holes that are maybe 6 inches or 10 inches apart. And the creek waters churn the rocks and make round holes in the sandstone, rather a soft sandstone. So this is one of the great views at our home. Anybody who wants to come there, we'll give them a tour up there. But yes, that reminds me, I think I should paint the potholes
You
again.
should.
Janice agrees.
Hillary wants you to do a ring neck pheasant.
Oh. So far, I've stuck with Western birds that are native. A ringneck pheasant, that's a challenge. Hillary is another of my grandnieces. She's a hunter.
Cute.
Or a sage grouse, the same.
Right.
Loretta, I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit here to say that when we were signing on, we had some time and a lot of folks were saying hello to Joan. Is there anything that you'd like to say while you're both on?
My best memories of Joan are artsy, but not in her painting. I thoroughly enjoyed the wreath making classes with her year after year. Always so full of enthusiasm. And another fun project with her was Joan, I don't know what it was, but we were both working with maybe third graders from school. It might have been a pumpkin day.
Yes.
But You and we were talking about bats with kids. I brought in,
Yes.
yeah.
I think it might have been the Halloween project. And we were looking at owl pellets.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Good memory.
Yes, yes. I love that project. And that was something else that went by the wayside, I think, with COVID, but I hope comes back. Where we
Mhm.
welcome school children to
To
ECEC. I think it's very important. And
Yes.
but the wreath making, I'll do it again. I think I'll be around. I just hope it's one of my favorite activities at ECEC.
Mhm.
Working with greens, working with, and it's a joy for everybody.
It was so nice that you could bring your ability with art into your love for the forest too. It was fun for us all. So thank you so much for those great things. Good memories.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good to see you.
Mhm.
Okay, is there anyone else that's been holding out, thinking, boy, I'd really love to ask this, but I'm not sure I'm ready to jump in? Now is your opportunity.
I just wanted to ask Joan when she thought she might be able to go out and paint again.
I'll go out anytime. My son will come out and to stay a couple of weeks in April.
Oh, okay.
I have to depend on my children to drive, not driving. And my children take wonderful care of me. But when he comes out from Virginia, he stays a couple of weeks. He works from home and he'll take me out. I was kind of waiting for the weather to get better. So I will get back to you in April. I hope he's out here.
Well, I can always come over to your place and we could paint there. So
And I know, and Graham has a wonderful garden. Jane and I have spent many time.
oh yes, you could come over here. Certainly, yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll have magnolias and all kinds of things blooming, I imagine.
Oh, Graham's garden is remarkable. It's 70-year-old fir trees interspersed with attendant gardens. Magnolias now, rhododendrons later. It's a remarkable place. And then, of course, endless wonderful vegetables. But
Oh, yeah.
right now, I have in my apartment a painting I did years ago there of just a painting of the fir tree trunks, which
Oh, yeah.
and with somewhat a garden atmosphere under the trunks. And it makes a wonderful garden, kind of half wild, but not as wild as my place.
Well, with those descriptions, that's the perfect setup for this last question, which is, do you ever let anyone come with you to watch and learn?
Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. People can be amazingly timid about trying to learn to draw, or express themselves. I think that we really don't have time in life to be timid about something like that. I believe in sort of diving in, and that goes for any sport or learning to cook or learning to draw or paint. And if anybody wants, I've had so many good instructors when just a few words was all that was needed to put you on the right track. Anytime I'd have an opportunity to do that, I'd be more than happy. And I've often thought of teaching drawing and paint. I have an opportunity, kind of where I'm living now, where I could do something with it. I'm a little timid about it, but I don't want to be pushy.
go for it, Joan.
Yeah, wait a minute, didn't you just say that There's just not enough time in life to be timid. I bet the folks there would love to have you offer that. And I hope it goes without saying that anytime you'd like to have a talk or a workshop here at ECEC, people would love to learn from you.
Oh, dear me. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, Joan, thank you so much for jumping into this as well. You are a Zoom star. It's been such a thrill to have you with us. So good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm very honored that ECEC will be able to carry your legacy forward with your name on the gallery here. Thank you for everything that you've done over the years. Joan, is there anything you want to say to send us off?
Just that I'm terribly honored. ECEC is one of the most wonderful thing that ever happened to Elkton. And I hope everybody attending this meeting comes away realizing that even more. And I can't thank you enough for coming in and making our lives so much richer by being here.
Nice.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone for joining us on our first ever public Zoom event. I can't wait to see people in person again. And for those of you at a distance, when you visit Elkton, please stop in and say hello. All right.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Joan.
Joan.
Thank you, Joan.